Assalamu alaikum, welcome to Game Changer. I'm Maryam Zia. Tonight we will be talking about human trafficking. That is a silent crisis that has been and continues to tarnish Pakistan's global image. According to Global Slavery Index 2023, around 10 out of every 1,000 Pakistanis were involved and were trapped in modern slavery in 2021. And when we talk about the recent tragedies like drowning of migrants in the Mediterranean, in which Pakistanis were also, of course, involved, these incidents tell us about the gravity of the issue. Of course, this is not only limited to Pakistan, but is a global hidden crisis. When we talk about the crisis of human trafficking in Pakistan, it takes many forms, from bonded labor and forced begging to domestic servitude and sex trafficking. Women and children remain particularly vulnerable because of the gender inequality, poverty and other issues. In today's program, we'll be talking about the human cost of this issue, what needs to be done and what needs to be done when we talk about the gaps and challenges that remain in, of course, addressing this issue. To discuss this and more, we are joined in the studios by Mr. SHAHID JATOI, who is Director, Sustainable Social Development Organization. Welcome to the program. We are joined online by Advocate JAVERIA YOUNAS, who is Human Rights Activist and Program Director, Perspective Policy Research Institute, Islamabad. Welcome to the program. Mr. Shahid, let me start with you. Of course, when we look at this Global Slavery Index 2023 report, it tells us that over 3 million Pakistanis are trapped in modern day slavery. Where is the gratitude of this issue and what it tells us about our nation?
Thank you very much. This is very important to this about this crime, especially the trafficking in persons. You rightly pointed out that in Pakistan, the Global Slavery Index, as well as various reports, whether it's US State Department annual report on trafficking in persons or the other reports, they usually talk about that around 3 million Pakistanis are usually trapped annually in the human trafficking circles. Whether it's although most of the human trafficking crises are internal, as more than 70% of the cases of our internal trafficking. But when we talk about this in global context, you know, this is biggest flourishing industry all across the globe. As per the estimates, it's about $150 billion US industry, and it's growing every day. And no country is immune from the human trafficking, whether it's the most developed countries, whether the developing countries, whether the European countries. And Pakistan is, of course, one of those countries that is usually recognized as the country of source, transit and destination country when it comes to trafficking.
What does it mean?
It means usually people are trafficked from some countries into Pakistan. Traffickers sometimes used Pakistan as a transit country to traffic people from one country to another, and also Pakistan as a source country. People, usually individuals, are trafficked from here into the GCC countries, into the Europe, and also in some parts of the other globe.
Right, right. And let me bring Advocate JAVERIA YOUNAS into the discussion. JAVERIA, when we talk about, of course, this crisis or tragedy of human trafficking, how does Pakistan's human trafficking issue compare with other countries in South Asia? And what are the factors, in your opinion, that contribute to severity of the issue in Pakistan, like, of course, Syed alluded to earlier?
Right. So first thing first, I would like, because generally what we do is we use smuggling, human smuggling and human trafficking interchangeably. So, and this will have legal repercussions itself also. So what we are here talking about is human smuggling, because human smuggling pertains to across border. These have severe legal repercussions across the border as well as within the domestic jurisdiction also. So, what Shahid Saab was talking about as well was Pakistan is a country of transit and destination, as well as source country of human trafficking and human smuggling both.
Javeria, how does Pakistan's human trafficking problem compares to other countries in South Asia, and what remains the key factors that it is more severe in Pakistan?
Right. So, human trafficking or human smuggling is a socio-economic problem. And as we see that Pakistan is a country which is struggling with its economy, more so with each passing day, each passing year. Human trafficking is an issue whereby humans or people who are unemployed from rural background, who are unskilled, are forced or coerced by the human smugglers by showing them, greener pastures abroad. So the rural youth, which has very little source of employment, or are completely unskilled, find it better to move abroad than make themselves more skilled. So this is an issue of Pakistan mostly, or Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, and Afghanistan, of course. So we see generally that the people who are drowned in the Mediterranean Sea, or are found in containers, their dead bodies found in containers, abandoned literally in containers, are mostly from Pakistan. So this is a tragedy which spans across border. It is a human tragedy, and I think this should be seen as one. And Pakistan needs to have cooperation with other SAARC countries and other European countries on this, to curb human smuggling mostly. And I think FIA also needs to play its part, that it is mandated to under the
Later
law.
in the program, but Mr. Shahid, when we look at different laws, there are new laws like Prevention of Trafficking in Persons Act 2018, but still Pakistan remains on a Tier 2 watch list of US State Department Trafficking in Persons report. What are the reasons?
Let me correct you. Pakistan is now out of Tier 2 watch
Okay.
list. Yes, it was since the start of this system and the report by the US State Department since 2015. Pakistan has been placed 5 times in Tier 2 watch list countries in the Trafficking in Persons annual report. But since 2022, Pakistan is, of course, its ranking improved, and now we are in the Tier 2 countries. And this is because of some concrete measures taken by government of Pakistan to combat trafficking in persons and smuggling of migrants in Pakistan. In 2020, both the acts in 2018, Pakistan enacted 2 different laws to combat this crisis. Prevention of Trafficking in Persons Act 2018 and Prevention of Smuggling of Migrants Act 2018. And in 2020, once again, Pakistan framed a national action plan that usually consists of a whole of government approach to combat this trafficking in persons and also smuggling of migrants. So yes, there were some measures taken gradually that improved Pakistan's ranking in trafficking in persons report.
Right, and Mr. Shahid, when we look at the recent tragedy that took place in Mediterranean, in which Pakistanis' lives were lost, and we cannot forget, of course, last year's incident as well, where hundreds of Pakistanis lost their lives. Moving forward, what lessons can we learn? Of course, we know that, of course, Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif has given instructions, but we are still waiting for results from the previous reports, and there are a lot of gaps. Can you tell us about some of the gaps and what needs to be done at this point in time?
Yes, thank you. This is very important. You know, the recent incident is not new in Pakistan. Every year, maybe in every month, such incidents happens, but gravity of the incidents usually is taken on the media, and also sometimes government took notice. Last year, you know, there were around 400 Pakistanis lost their life in the Mediterranean Sea. And of course, at that time, there was also a committee constituted under the leadership of the then DG National Police Bureau, Dr. Ehsan Sadiq, and they have a very concrete investigation and also prepared a very good report to combat such crimes. But unfortunately, although that report was of course given to the government to take some actions, but still there lacks some gaps in implementation of those identified gaps, especially when it comes to the capacity of the law enforcement. Especially this smuggling of migrant issue comes under the domain of federal investigation agencies. And you know, as per the Prevention of Smuggling of Migrants Act 2018, the FIA needs to, there is need of notification of another agencies that could support FIA to counter these, to counter this crime. There were some recommendations to take some actions against some corrupt officials within the law enforcement agencies. There were also recommendations about building their capacities. There were also recommendations about updating their annual red book. There were also some recommendations to the Interior Ministry.
And talking about these recommendations, JAVERIA, of course, we know that capacity building remains important, but in the context of this recent tragedy, we know that two of FIA's recent arrest of a human trafficker, two human traffickers were of course arrested, and of course there were some people from FIA as well that were involved. How important is it that we of course go for these elements that are hidden within law enforcement agencies?
Yes, not only within the law enforcement agencies, amongst the law enforcement agencies, because just yesterday there was news about police releasing one of the suspects and not informing FIA about it. So in their defense, police officials, SHO Ibrahim, if I remember his name correctly, said that the person's remand was over, and thus they had to release the alleged smuggler. So there is a severe lack of coordination between the law enforcement agencies, and when it comes to collusion of law enforcement agencies with the smugglers, I think this goes without question or without any doubt in anyone's mind that of course the FIA is involved, especially when it comes to immigration through the international borders or through the airport, because that is one of the safest route for smugglers to send over many of the illegal immigrants. And I think one of the racket was also busted, I think 3 days ago, when FIA arrested one of the person who was traveling to Oman, and he divulged the details that there was a WhatsApp group, and one of the person claimed to be from the FIA, and he assured him against a payment of 8 lakh rupees that his smuggling would be smooth sail.
In JAVERIA, a number of people have been arrested, and of course, when we talk about recent arrest of a human trafficker from the Red Book's most wanted list, how significant, in your opinion, is this step in dismantling human trafficking networks?
See, the thing is, these smugglers are like hydras. If you cut one head off, three more will emerge. So what you need to is completely uproot the entire networks, because there are just not networks, there are sub-networks, and each network has its own area or jurisdiction that they operate in. So just by arresting a few people will not make much of a difference, in my opinion, because this is a huge network which works within the law enforcement agencies also, and amongst the border guards also. So you will need an entire new system. I think AI integration and biometric system would have to be involved to curb this smuggling across the border. And I think FIA staff also needs to be better equipped. They are not equipped enough. They're not they need capacity building also. So I think there are several levels and several tiers of improvement that will be required for this menace to stop anytime soon.
Right, right. And when we talk about these issues, Mr. Syed, let's talk about the routes that are being taken. And also, of course, both human smuggling and human trafficking are interchangeable. But for our audience, can you tell us the key differences and how they then can be interchangeable?
Yes, trafficking in person is, of course, and smuggling of migrants are usually used interchangeably, but these two are different things. Of course, when it comes to trafficking in persons or human trafficking, you may call it, here the consent of the victim matters, because human trafficking, usually we call it business on humans. It is the exploitation of one person by another person through forced fraud or coercion, for commercial sex act and for forced labor. And when it comes to smuggling of migrants, it is usually irregular routes taken by someone with the support of smugglers to enter into another territory or another country for their own well-being or for their own better economic opportunities. So these two are different things. Usually from Pakistan, there are multiple routes the Pakistanis take through irregularly migrating to the other countries. Earlier, there were some routes, especially when we talk about the eastern Mediterranean routes from Pakistan, taking land routes to the Iran, via Turkey to Greece, and then to the Europe. And of course, there were also some routes that are now abandoned by some reasons, that were taking the routes through the Balkan countries. But now the trend has changed. Now from Pakistan, usually smugglers take individuals through regular ways into the UAE or Oman, and then from taking them irregular ways through land or to sea routes to Yemen, Sudan, Egypt and Libya, and then towards Italy or Greece.
And Syed Sahab, what is being done to address these cross-border trafficking routes?
Yes, very importantly, I think last year FIA introduced 3 lines of border control in 5 international airports in Pakistan. This was something, a very good initiative and of course from those airports or the entry-exit points, some offloads were also increased. And Sialkot is, of course, interestingly one of them where this 3 lines of border control was introduced. But the recent incident that happened in 15th of December and most of the smugglers took this route. So this is again some questions are raised about the efficiency of such such measures taken by the law enforcement and the immigration
They still
authorities.
remain inefficient because they are still outsmarting.
Maybe, of course, again there is need to do some more, or maybe there is need to introduce some more, using more surveillance technologies and the other things, because they introducing some mechanism is not enough. There is need to strengthen the mechanism, and also there is also need to build the capacity of the relevant officials deputed at the airports.
Right, right. And Javeria, how effective in your opinion are the current laws when we talk about internal human trafficking, especially bonded labor? And of course we know and how important and significant in your opinion is the feudal system in this regard, and also the corruption that is playing a part in of course this human trafficking issue.
Right. So, with regards to human trafficking, it is more of a gender issue because humans, unlike human smuggling, which has more men involved, human trafficking has more women and vulnerable communities involved. So, there are children, there are who are involved in bonded labor or slavery or household servitude, as you pointed out earlier in the program. So this issue is again has economic underlining. For instance, in case of bricklayer worker or people working in the agriculture sector who are bonded labor, who are bonded through debt to work in the landlords or the feudal lords, lands or bricklands. So what government can do with regards to bonded labor is ensuring that bricklands are dismantled, and for bonded labor there are several NGOs who are working on ground. So they can sort of make, because there is no data as such of how many people are actually involved in bonded labor. So having a data set and through policy framework, perhaps this can be addressed. And there is also sexual exploitation of when it comes to human trafficking. So by ensuring that you protect the victim and not the traffickers, perhaps this also can be curbed. Basically, human trafficking is a phenomena which is more of internal nature. So there are absolutely no data on how many people were involved in it, because unlike human smuggling, human trafficking has lesser deaths. So these don't come into picture more often as human smuggling does. So I think we as perhaps consumers should be more aware of how our food is coming in.
But what about the implementation of laws in your opinion?
All right. So again, implementation of law, we hardly see any on ground, because even if there are certain arrests being made, police takes ages to submit the challans in the court, and then the whole entire process comes apart, because the victim is very scared to come forward. There are no witness protection programs in Pakistan, so they're too scared to come forward against the perpetrators. So there is absolutely no implementation, and I have never heard of any convictions being made against such traffickers in Pakistan, at least, to my knowledge.
Right, right. Thank you very much, Advocate JAVERIA YOUNAS, for joining us in today's program and for your valuable input. Ahmad, when we talk about human trafficking, new ways are now being used by these traffickers with the emergence of internet and social media. How do you think social media has changed dynamics of human trafficking in Pakistan and globally?
Yes, of course. The traffickers usually now used, of course, the driving forces behind victimizing the vulnerable groups. They usually use social media, the fraudulent employment schemes, and giving them enticement to go into some affluent countries. So these tactics are usually used by the traffickers, and sometimes traffickers use the matchmaking websites to entice, because in most of the cases usually the victims are women. All across the globe, 70% of the victims of trafficking in persons are women, and only 29% are male. So these websites are usually used, and also the traffickers now are utilizing different channels. Even sometimes the communication, the communication and other things are also used, like the Uber cream and the Baikia. These things are also being used by the traffickers to kidnap and also to entice the victims.
Right. And to talk more about this, we are joined online by Dr. Malik Ahmad, who is human rights activist. Welcome to the program. Dr. Ahmad, when we talk about this issue of human trafficking, climate-induced migration has given a new dimension to human trafficking. Of course, people are moving from their homes because of droughts, poverty, creating new vulnerabilities to these communities. In your opinion, what policies should be in place to address these issues?
Thank you for bringing me to this topic. I think, as you mentioned about the climate issues related to poverty, like in Pakistan, of course, we do have poverty-driven, trafficking in the country. However, when we talk about smuggling, it is not poverty-driven, because smuggling is consensual by the victim, and they pay a lot of money to the smugglers. As far as the trafficking is concerned, of course, like, since it is related to like poverty, since it is related to bad governance, since it is related to some kind of injustice in the society, which people usually see. So then they try to go out, and this is what the traffickers, the smugglers, they try to exploit these kind of issues in their lives, and then these people, they become victims at the end. And sometimes, because the women trafficking is also increasing in Pakistan, and then at the end they find themselves in prostitution or forced labors abroad.
Right. And Dr. Ahmad, what kind of or what specific reforms, in your opinion, are needed in judicial at this point in time for, of course, a victim-centric response to human trafficking?
I think because USA, it issues a report and then it has some ranking. So Pakistan is still in tier 2, which basically is a ranking for the country. Like Pakistan is warning ranking that Pakistan has to do, the government has to do a lot of efforts to curb this trafficking, the human trafficking. The thing is, Pakistan has already done a couple of laws, like in 2020 and 2028. There is one law, prevention of trafficking in person, and there is a law prevention of human smuggling act in 2020, where they have increased fines like up to 1 million rupees, and then they have increased their punishment up till 7 years. The thing is, it is not only working for increasing the fines and like the punishment. Of course, it matters, but at the same time, they do need to reform within their system, such as Federal Investigation Agency. It has to be more, like with more resources, so that they could work better. Although they have established new offices, for example, like in Gujranwala, they have established the office where we have more, human smuggling, from Gujarat, Mandibadi, Jhelum, and this part. And then, human trafficking is mainly from South Punjab or Sindh part, So they have extended their circles, FIA. And then there are also, the government is trying to negotiate with the other countries, bringing them on board the route which the usually traffickers use from, like we use the Pakistan uses three, routes for trafficking and for smuggling: air, land, sea. So
Right,
they
right.
need
We've
to work.
already discussed that in the program, but moving forward, Dr. Hamad, when we talk about human trafficking, of course, we know that now, after the recent tragedy, that there are systemic gaps in the law enforcement as well. What needs to be done by the government to address those gaps and addressing that corruption and those corrupt officials who are facilitating human trafficking networks?
I think, if I don't know if the facts have been stated here that from Africa to Europe it is a $10 billion market. From South America to North America it is $7.6 billion. This is what UNODC tells us, and at the same time, so it shows that how big this illegal act is in this world, in the global human trafficking and smuggling. The thing is, Pakistan, first of all, Pakistan has to do, for instance, agreements with the bilateral or multilateral with various governments, especially the governments which comes on the route. For instance, Iranian government, Turkish government, then Greece, Italy, and Spain. And then of course, like the Middle East, if they take the sea, way to traffic the person. So then these governments, they have to have very strong relationship. They should have like hotlines, so that the Pakistan's agencies, law enforcement agencies, and the other countries' law enforcement agencies, they should be on hotline so that they can communicate faster. This is very much important. The second point is the government of Pakistan should work to establish overseas employment agreements. So, for instance, if Middle East needs some labor from Pakistan, so that they should approach to the government to ask for the labor. If Spanish government, which is another country where many Pakistani they are trafficked or smuggled, so the Spanish, Italian, Greece government, they should have like their agreement where the government of Pakistan asks these governments to send them officially and legally the requirement of labor to their countries, so that the government could stop the exploitation of these traffickers, where we have the push factors,
Right.
and then we have the pull factors
Right, right.
involved.
Let me take the same point to Mr. Shahid. Mr. Shahid, what's your take on this? How important is not only the international cooperation but intelligence sharing with the regional partners and other partners, global players and global stakeholders, where Pakistanis go for, of course, their jobs and other purposes, but they are somehow trapped in these networks. What needs to be done? First, tell us what laws at this point in time exist, what kind of collaborations exist, and moving forward, how can we collaborate in implementation of those laws?
Yes, there are two different laws, of course. One law is called Mutual Legal Assistance Act 2020. This law was, of course, enacted by the recommendations of FATF to curb the terrorist financing and anti-money laundering initiatives. But this particular law usually also deals to combat the transnational organized crimes like trafficking in persons and smuggling of migrants. Under this act, Pakistan has some bilateral and also multilateral agreements with the countries where these crimes have the nature of dual criminality. So under this cooperation, Pakistan has to cooperate with the other countries and also seek their assistance for investigation, for prosecution, and also confiscation of the crime proceeds, and also the transfer of the criminals. So, on the other hand, both these crimes, trafficking in persons and smuggling of migrants, comes as a transnational organized crimes. So the UN Convention on Transnational Organized Crimes also stipulates some provisions for international cooperation. And of course Pakistan is signatory and also has ratified protocol on trafficking in persons. So there are also some agreements already there with some of the countries. Even this is very significant when it comes to, of course, to fighting with the networks operating at transnational boundaries. So these two laws are there already for international cooperation. But again,
implementation remains a question.
Yes, of course. Under both laws, the custodian of the laws is, of course, the Interior Ministry. But this requires interdepartmental coordination. There is need because the laws were enacted on the victim-centric approaches, as we talked about in the previous session. But the problem is that still, whether it's the law enforcement agencies, victim service providers, and various government agencies, there is need a better coordination and collaboration among all stakeholders. But still there is lack of coordination, and even there is lack of sensitization about their role. So we tried.
So lastly, what kind of sensitization do we need on, of course, civil society level, on media level, and of course with law enforcement agencies?
Yes, when we talk about the victim-centric approach, it means in combating the crimes, the victim is at the center point. But what happens is that, for example, take the incident. Now you would see the arrests of the smugglers every day. And also you would see the victims, especially the families of the victims, being re-victimized and re-traumatized during this whole process. But the laws specifically says that when you would fight with these crimes, the victim of trafficking in persons and victim of smuggling of migrants would provide immunity of prosecution.
And that includes showing pictures not of the victims but of the traffickers.
Yes, of course. This is even
but that is
one
other way
part of the
around
point.
in our culture, in our media, in how we see reporting of the things.
Yes, usually what happens is the victims, the families, they are being terrorized, they are sometimes arrested, they are blackmailed by the officials, sometimes even they are reported in the media without their consent. So all these things usually gives some impression to the victims that this is something against them. So it made them not to cooperate with the government, with the government agencies. So the laws provides that victim should be placed at the center point, and all the law enforcement, whether registration of the cases, its investigation, prosecution, should go around. And the most important thing is that the law provides is the dignified reintegration of victims within the society. That is never the case in case of Pakistan, where there is no reintegration mechanism processes in the country. There are no proper recovery and rehabilitation of the victims. There are no
The
proper
psychological
service
trauma they have endured, of course, that remains a key issue. But of course, we are pressed for time. Lastly, Dr. Ahmad, with this escalating threat of trafficking, what long-term strategies, in your opinion, Pakistan should be adopting to eradicate human trafficking crisis?
I think we should have, documentaries, proper documentaries, the how difficult, or the hardship the people they face when they are trafficked or smuggled, where people, the victim is consensual for being smuggled. So there must be some documentaries, proper documentaries through out the way they cross to the other countries, so that then of course like through that documentaries, through visual representation, so the people would be probably frightened, or probably they're gonna be get rid of that being exploited by the smugglers or traffickers. So this is one thing. The second point is, I don't think so that showing the pictures of the culprits in media before they become punished, they are punished by the courts. So these courts have to work faster for giving justice to the victims, to the people, so that then if once they are punished by the court that they are the criminals, then it is possible to show their faces. Otherwise, they could go to the court against their human rights thing that they were they were showed by in the media, even though they were not criminals at that time. So this is the few things. And the third is, of course, the reforms within the Federal Investigation Agency, within the law enforcement agencies, the collaboration, as the former speaker mentioned about the collaboration between the agencies is very much important. The people who are involved from the government side, who are corrupt, or who basically get exploited by these smugglers or traffickers through different means. So it has to be stopped. It has to be watched very well, because we know that FIA knows which area is the most most potential, for the traffickers. So it has to be watched very well.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ahmad Malik, for joining us in today's program. Thank you very much, Mr. Shahid Khan JATOI, for joining us in today's program. Of course, as we conclude today's discussion on human rights and human trafficking, we are reminded of the countless lives that are caught in this crisis. And it is not only an issue of Pakistan, but it is a global crisis, and it needs international collaboration, international cooperation, because this not only includes, of course, law enforcement agencies, but it is a human rights issue. That's all from Game Changer tonight. Take care. Allah Hafiz.